I am always looking for ways to build relationships, plug into communities, get people helping each other, encouraging the teamwork, and then have an opportunity to build skills. This pushes all of my buttons, and I never would have come up with this on my own in a million years. Welcome to another T-Rex Talk. I have a friend with me, Nathan. It's really good to have you here in our somewhat air-conditioned studio today, but you just have been outside in the extremely hot sun doing a very interesting drone-centric job. So do you want to tell our listeners, our audience, a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm really glad to be here.
It's fun to have you again.
Yep, good to be back. So I am a drone pilot by trade, Part 107 certified, whole 9 yards. Been doing this for about a little over 4 years now, probably closer to 5.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact year when I started, but it's been interesting. It's been quite a development. I work for a company called Percepto. We manufacture drone-in-a-box solutions, fully autonomous solutions, and I serve as their lead demo operator. So I travel around the country doing demonstrations for interested parties. However, when I'm not traveling, when I'm not on the road, when I'm not going all over the United States, I volunteer for a drone department.
This is exactly what I wanted to talk about. What you were doing today was checking out industrial commercial sites. It's very cool. It's probably harder to do when it's 113 degree heat index.
It's much less pleasant.
Yeah. But the drone department is what I really want to talk to you about, because until I met you, I don't think I had ever heard about a drone department. I understand police departments, fire departments. I understand roughly how EMS and EMA and SAR generally kind of works within the NIMS system. Okay. What is a drone department?
Okay, so our drone department it's completely volunteer. Every one of us, from our chief to all of our administrative guys, we're all volunteers. We're all here doing this because we want to. Now, drones have more and more begun to come up in fire departments.
Yes.
And police departments.
I see police drones all the time, but they're usually inside the police department.
Yes.
Same with fire, same with other departments. So you're separate.
Exactly. Now, inside of a department, obviously a drone is a huge asset for that department. But because drones are still relatively new,
learning curve.
Yep.
It's expensive. A lot to stay on top of.
Yes, you got to stay on top of the regulation and all the latest technology. And similar to phones, where you buy a new phone and next year it's outdated, drones are very much the same way. You buy a drone, probably by next year, they're slightly more forgiving. Your drone's maybe good for 2 or 3 years, but pretty quickly it's outdated. And trying to stay on top of that and keep up with that. And then with a lot of departments having limited funding, especially for these newfangled toys. It's for a lot of departments, it's really hard to get the funding to do it. And then you go to where I live, which is very rural Pennsylvania, north central Pennsylvania. And then they're even less well-funded, and they're not a big department that they can afford the time and the training to make sure that their pilots are recurrent and up to speed and well-trained and experienced for doing this kind of stuff. So what we're doing is there's Ron is my department chief. He's the guy who thought up all this, who started this department, very much a grassroots type of organization. And he's a pilot who did a lot of drone stuff before he did this. And then I had 4 years before I started doing this, roughly. And so we're already coming into it with experience. We're already coming into it with knowledge of the systems, and in our case, with our own systems. We didn't have to start from ground zero with, what's the best drone to buy?
And you being in the industry, you're already up to speed on the technology, the new models, and the regulations, which currently, it feels like the regulations change a lot faster than the technology, which is the opposite of how innovation is supposed to work.
Yes.
So,
and the regulations are catching up too, where it's the FAA first didn't even know what to do with drones.
Yeah.
And so now they're constantly changing things up because, and to the FAA's credit, where the FAA is actually kind of unique compared to a lot of other three-letter agencies, is that they're actually trying pretty hard to help get drones to fulfill the drone's capability.
It's true. They don't feel like they wish that they could shoot every drone owner's dog.
Yes.
Even though they are regulating, new regulations come fast, improvements come slow. Improvements are coming.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and interestingly, things like right now we have remote ID coming in September. Now, remote ID, for those who don't know, is an airplane. If you're flying in an airplane right now, it has to have an ADS-B in and an ADS-B out. So a transmitter that's transmitting its location, heading, etc.
Tail number, identification.
Yes,
yep.
Exactly. So that it can be tracked. ADS-B is now coming in September for drones. It's been there for ADS-B in, where as I'm flying my Autel, for example, I can see other aircraft around me, but there hasn't been an ADS-B out. So the FAA is now doing that. But interestingly, it's because that sort of starts to prep drones for being more integrated into, because BBLOS, the company I work for, Percepto, is now, as far as I know, the first company to achieve blanket nationwide BBLOS, beyond visual line of sight. So as of right now, if you're flying a drone, you're required to keep it line of sight. We now have that waived, where we can fly it from, our system flies off basically a laptop. You can fly it from anywhere.
You can sit in here in the non-air conditioning, fly it outside.
Exactly. I could do that, where it's slightly cooler than it is outside.
We do have shade, yes.
Yes. So now with that change, now at the ADS-B, and now with BBLOS waivers coming, is even though in some ways there's more regulation coming for drones, the intent is to allow drones to do more, to go further, to fly where they previously haven't been allowed to fly, because this kind of stages them to be more integrated into national airspace.
I get it. Gotcha.
So it's kind of a mixed bag. I don't like the idea of being able to be tracked. Who does? But I can also kind of see where,
the purpose of this.
The purpose of it is to allow drones to not, because frankly right now, to stay legal, you're pretty limited. You find a little DJI Mavic Mini to stay line of sight. You fly at 100 feet and suddenly you're going.
Very hard to see at 100 feet.
Where is it?
And some of these things, DJI has incredible range, and you can fly those things for miles and still have shockingly good signal. And then there's autonomous drones like Skydio and Autel and your company, where the whole value proposition of the drone is for it to fly itself where you can't see it. So
exactly.
Yeah, the regulation finally catching up to some of the technological capabilities. But let's go back to the drone department.
Absolutely.
How do you start a drone department? When you go to your local county and you tell them you want to be a drone department and you want to be tied into 911 dispatch and you want to have the ability to run traffic and stuff, do they even have a checkbox for that, or is it only police, sheriff, fire? What happened? How does that look?
So it's a very, very grassroots kind of thing, and it's taken us a lot of time to get to that point. And a lot of it actually wasn't so much going to the county as it was where we started interacting with fire departments.
Right. Yeah.
And we started interacting with police forces. And we started going, and especially what's really cool about having local volunteer fire departments is it's a lot easier to build that relationship. And that's a big part of it. Is building that relationship with your local departments and being able to say, hey, we have this capability, in this case, the drone. When you have a fire, here's all the ways we can help. And depending on where you're at, there are departments who are very set in their ways. We've done it this way forever. It's cool what you're doing, but we just don't see a need for it. And then there's some with some very forward thinkers in there who start going, that could be helpful. I see the use for that there.
Yeah. Now that is, so again, a lot of stuff we've talked about on previous audio only episodes of the podcast. We've talked about community relationships, infrastructure, stuff like that to some extent. And here in Hickman County, we also have a geographically large county that is very few people in it, and so department budgets are low. But we're close to Nashville, and even in Nashville, where department budgets are high, there are some interesting stories. I heard that I'm not going to say which department, but some department got a demo of some autonomous drones and said, "Absolutely not. We must be in control of the drones. We don't trust these things," which is kind of understandable.
I can understand.
And 6 months later, they had crashed a very expensive collection of man-controlled drones and had no drones.
Yep.
So I can see a lot of value in trusting somebody else to make the drones do their thing.
Yes.
So you don't have to trust the drones, and you don't have to have these technologically challenging things inside of your department where you're already busy doing a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that those drone capabilities, what can you bring to a rural department, say, where you're not doing really complicated high-rise hostage negotiations on a weekly basis? What is it you actually do, like day to day?
Yeah. So a really, especially for rural areas, a really big thing is search and rescue, right? You know, it's rural. There's a lot of woods. There's a lot of space. People get, you know, and especially around me, there's a lot of different state parks that people end up getting lost all the time. Very, very commonplace. And search and rescue is phenomenal use of a drone because you can cover a lot of ground. Now, especially in the east, where we have a lot of tree canopy, a lot of tree cover, sometimes that makes it difficult to see down in the woods.
For sure.
So you still need a search and rescue crew down there. But what this enables me to do is to kind of go out ahead with a drone and start looking along creek banks, along roadways, along, you know, some of these more open spaces, and just taking up ground and covering ground that now the search and rescue crew doesn't have to cover.
Yep.
So, and again, more rural, often more limited resources. So the crews oftentimes are smaller, and the more that we can do to cover that ground
window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Narrow down that search window. And that's where even just your standard RGB, you know, regular camera drone is very useful. Having the thermal capability unlocks a whole new, and thermal's not perfect. Thermal, you can't see that person who's, you know, wearing that bright yellow shirt. You know, it's not perfect in every way. But thermal will still help a ton with just being able to move along a wood edge and to see back into the wood line and be able to find people. So search and rescue is huge. Yeah. Huge use case for a drone.
And thermal is great for fire. We have a thing here where we have a lot of woods out the window. We have lots of tree cover. We have a lot of structure fires that become wildfires in some way. So being able to see hot spots and being able to really quickly see if stuff is moving away from structures or towards other structures with a thermal camera is huge. That's massively helpful.
Yes. And having the thermal, even on a structure fire where you're able to look and you're able to see the progression of a fire, if you can get there right at the outset and be tracking this fire right from the get-go, you can give the department you're working with an idea of where is that fire headed?
Yep.
Where is it moving?
Where they're going to get their attack lines. Yeah.
Yep. And we can also use it to say, watch a roof and to say, look, this rooftop is getting really, really hot. You better make sure that your guys are clear of that because there's a chance it's gonna go. And then towards the end of the fire, we can then look, because one problem fire departments face a lot of times is, okay, fire is pretty much out. Let's start sending some guys home. And what they don't realize is that here over in this corner, there's still a hot spot that will reignite. It's still hot. They got it with water, but eventually it can flare up again.
Yeah.
And so having the ability to look over a structure and say, hey guys, this is still hot over here. And the incident commander can tell his guys, let's go over and we're going to douse that thing with some more water and make sure they don't have to call anyone back for a flare up.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, with wildfires, being able to track that progression, being able to watch that fire and where it's going, because wildfires have a tendency to turn fast.
Yeah.
And the wind changes a little bit with the terrain, and suddenly your northbound fire, makes a sharp hook, and it's an eastbound fire. And being able to watch that, have an eye in the sky, is extremely
Yeah.
valuable.
So I was a volunteer firefighter for a while, and because Hickman County is so big,
Mhm.
I rarely got on scene quickly. So my experience dealing with fires early on is very limited compared to afterwards. We also have a lot of trailers around here. So if it takes you 40 minutes to get to a trailer that's on fire, there's not a lot of early ventilation that you have to do. It's pretty much solved itself in some ways. You're stopping spread
Yes, exactly.
in Hickman County more often than not. But what about law enforcement? What are some of the things that you do for police and sheriff and highway and stuff like that as a drone department?
Yes. For law enforcement, actually, a lot of times it goes back to that search and rescue aspect, or to that missing persons, or to a manhunt. Hey, we got this guy who's on the run, and
That's
might
just
call
search
us.
and rescue, but faster.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Search and rescue, but faster. Exactly. And the person is actually trying to hide from you. They're not trying to be found. They're trying to hide.
Makes it fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Makes it interesting. So that's really the biggest use that we have. Again, because we're in a rural area, there's not a lot we can do, for police departments when, say someone's in the house or robbery taking place or whatever.
They're small enough houses.
Yeah. So most of what we do is that, hey, we need help finding something or someone. The other thing that comes into play is crash reconstruction.
Oh, yeah.
Or overseeing an accident. If there's an accident, being able to get on scene quickly. And with an accident, usually it's just it's happened, it's over with. The crash has happened, and they got EMS, and they got fire rescue, and they got all the people there, and they take the people out. But then at that point, we're able to get a bird's eye view, and we're able to take images, or
the guys on the ground are doing traffic management, and you can do evidence collection.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
We can give them a bird's eye view of here's what happened. You can clearly see the tire tracks that went here, and you can see what happened. So accident reconstruction is another big one.
For that, are you mostly just getting stills and video, or are you doing full-on 3D models of stuff?
3D models is one of the best ways to do it.
And then you can measure and get actual forensic type stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Now, often with a crash, time is of the essence.
Yeah,
because they want to clear the roadway.
For sure.
They want to get that off the roadway. So again, because we can do it quickly with a drone, because it really doesn't take very long to get enough imagery for a map and for a 3D model. We just can fly a cylinder around, collect a bunch of imagery, kind of a dome shape over it, and then we can whisk that data off, throw it into a program like Drone Deploy, Pix4D, something like that.
Yeah.
And a couple hours later, it spits out a 3D model that they can then pass off, and you can pan it around, and they can look at it. And, yeah,
it's pretty cool technology. And so I can see a lot of value that you bring to your county, the different departments that you interact with. But what do you get out of it? Obviously, you are serving, you're helping, you're getting to, your day job is drones. So you are already getting to have fun with drones. But this is, drones are a very fun hobby that's hard to justify for people who are busy. And this is a way that you can turn into something that is genuinely productive.
Yes.
What are some of the other benefits that have come out of this for you, for the department, for the other guys around, and the county in general?
Well, one of the big reasons I wanted to do it in the first place was I met Ron, and he told me about what he was kind of doing, and for me, my job involves leaving my community. That's what I do. I hop on a plane, or I jump in a truck, and I leave my community, and I'm away from my community.
Yeah. Head to the Oklahoma oil fields.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This gives me a way to, when I come home, gives me a way to take my experience, take my license, take my equipment, and to then turn it around and use it as something that's not just fun, and it's not just a money maker, but is actually genuinely helping out my community. Because, for example, within our department, really, right now we only have 2 pilots. It's Ron and myself. And then we have several other guys that they're not pilots. They don't fly drones, but maybe they can run because we use underwater rovers as well for this.
Okay, yeah.
So maybe they can run the underwater rover, or maybe they have their boat license and can run a boat,
Mhm.
or maybe they know comms and they can help us with
Yes,
communications.
next question. Yeah.
Administrative work. We got guys who really the biggest thing they do is go to the fire department meetings to continue to network, to continue to
Yeah.
um,
Maintain the
outreach
relationships.
into that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because probably one of the biggest aspects of the department, one of the things that has really helped us succeed in the community is building that trust, building those relationships.
Yeah.
Because we can't just be, here I am, I'm a hotshot drone pilot that can, whip an FPV drone through windows, and we need to be professionals.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that they trust us to work with them. It's a huge aspect. And so having those guys that just network, those guys that just, because it's not going to be me because I'm gone all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to do that. So having those people who maybe their skill is just people skills.
Yeah.
And being able to take those and use it to benefit the community is immense.
Mm-hmm. I can also see you as being kind of a liaison between departments. Like one of the issues that obviously it is a joke in and of itself. Police versus fire is the source of many actual true memes that come out of this. But one of the things that I really appreciated having on our rescue department was one of the local cops. The fact that he did both was huge for relationships. And he did that pretty much all by himself. But there's a lot of guys, like every other police officer in the Centerville Police Department, way too busy to do two jobs to moonlight. But if we had a drone department, say, who could go to both sets of meetings, keep people posted on stuff, I think that a lot of relationships would be healthier and a lot of benefit would come out of it. So
yes.
Have you seen that in your neck of the woods? And I don't want any details because small town first responder politics.
It's something on its own.
Yes.
But you saying that is really actually one of the biggest reasons to have a dedicated drone department outside of the skill aspect. But you can ask the question of, well, why don't we just get a guy on our police department who does it? Or why don't we just get a guy in our fire department? Because we are our own thing. It means that we can go between departments.
Yep. And make some teamwork happen that wouldn't have otherwise.
Because we cover multiple counties. We don't just cover Tioga County where I am. We cover multiple counties in north central Pennsylvania. And because we're independent, it means that we can work with a lot of different, and not just fire departments or police departments, DCNR, the Game Commission,
all kinds of stuff,
independent search and rescue groups. We got a lot of different groups that we can, and it gives us just the flexibility to do that.
Yeah.
To be independent.
That's huge. And I can only speak to my own limited experience, but seeing that police officer doing stuff with the rescue squad and the way that it brought groups together, the few other cross department guys that we had when we would mutual aid a department because there was a guy that we knew them, like the relationships, even when they were, relatively small, relatively infrequent contact, still the level of trust that existed there that enabled teamwork to happen was huge. And the two things that really got me and the rest of my family more plugged into our community here, one of them was the fire thing. And then the other thing was, as T-Rex has grown and we've just done more community stuff and hired more people from around there, that has really helped us build relationships too. But that fire department thing was huge. And I don't think it is an interesting coincidence that the 4 original T-Rex guys were all on the rescue squad together and joined at the same time and did training together and then plugged into the community together. So I'm super intrigued by this drone department thing. Is there anything else? I'm guessing that the folks watching, we're still getting used to this format where we have a personal conversation, very private, and people are watching. The people watching are probably curious as to how they could do this and some of the other practicalities and things. So is there anything else that you want to cover quickly? Since you're on the road, I know you'll be back. Yes. And I think that we should dig a little deeper into this based on questions. But is there anything else that you want to try to just like cover obvious questions that people have that I haven't brought up? Any points you want to cover on this drone department concept, because I am always looking for ways to build relationships, plug into communities, get people helping each other, encouraging the teamwork that can exist between guys who may not necessarily work together, and then have an opportunity to build skills. And like, this pushes all of my buttons, and I never would have come up with this on my own in a million years. So this is totally my jam.
Yeah. I mean, I guess foundationally, in order to get this started, in order to, hey, I have this skill set. Again, it could be comms. It could be, you're just, hey, I got good people skills.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, is to get into this. The biggest thing is to reach out, find connections.
Yep.
Go to, if you can attend a public fire meeting, or if you know a guy who's in the fire department and you just want to go along, or even just one thing we do is we go to events. Like there's probably gonna be a 4th of July event that, by the lake that we're gonna go to and show our stuff. Go to those events and network and be professional.
Yeah.
Display, show them, here's why you should trust me to do this. And a lot of that comes down to, again, not being, that guy who wants to show off all of his drone skills. And even above the drone skills, you need to, be competent with a drone or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
But you also just need to be just a good, trustworthy individual.
Yeah. And I think it helps when you show up and you say, I'm here to help, to volunteer to do a thing that doesn't have any glitz or glamour attached to it.
Exactly.
And when people show up and like, hi, I would like to be a reserve deputy. I would like a badge and a gun and to be in charge of stuff, please. That has a very different sound to it than, hi, I'm willing to run into burning buildings to help people, and I don't want to get paid.
Yep.
Would you let me?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, and the why behind it too, because there's the people who, hey, I want to run into buildings because I want to show off how macho I am, and I want to see puppy dogs and stuff like that. Just being that, again, that humble person, that I'm not here because I just want to play with cool toys.
Yeah.
It's a nice side bonus, but it's a good side bonus.
Yeah.
But just for me, I just genuinely want to take this. I don't want to just go and make my paycheck and return home and then I do nothing else with my skill set besides play around with it. I wanted to help others in that mentality, and form a core group of people around you who all want to work together to help. Again, because we're a department, we work together. We have different skill sets. And if you can start building that smaller community around you, and then start networking that, showing here's why we as a group can help and want to help, it makes a difference too.
I like that a lot. So many more questions. I do really look forward to continuing this conversation.
Absolutely.
And look forward to have you back. But for those watching, I just encourage you, if you want to get plugged in, build community, do a lot of the stuff that we've talked about at T-Rex for a very long time. This is a super cool opportunity that I had never really thought about. And depending on the assets that you have, the skills, the people that you've already connected with, maybe this is something that you could consider starting in your county, or maybe you take the baby steps and you go to some fire meetings and maybe you become the volunteer firefighter. You become, that point of connection for the guys in your squad that are going to start the drone department next year, that kind of thing. So homework assignment, go think about how you can do that. Look forward to Nathan coming back onto the show to talk more details. Questions in the comments down below that we would need to answer in the future. And then, I also should say one more thing. I told my kids next time you were in town, we were going to fly the big drone. So they have been asking about you. And so when they see this video, I have to explain, the big drone trailer was in the shop. That's why we couldn't fly the big drone. So
yeah, it's getting worked on. When she's all fixed and prettied up, I'll bring it back out.
So next time, we'll fly the big drone. We'll continue to talk about some stuff. I do want to pick your brain, and we can do this in a video about commercial drones.
Yes.
But the drone department is that grassroots personal responsibility thing that T-Rex talks about a lot. The community involvement, serving, and increasing capabilities all at the same time. I love it. So,
you too.
Thank you so much for coming out, Nathan.
Absolutely.
And telling people about this super cool idea that I am really excited by, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
See you guys.